Can you believe that a child abandoned in the desert without food or water could become the founder of a great nation? It sounds incredible, but this story truly happened. This is the poignant and miraculous tale of Ishmael, a rejected son, often overlooked in the canonical scriptures, yet one who carried a divine promise, a mighty legacy, and an endless source of inspiration. Join us as we uncover this unique story, one that goes far beyond what we commonly know, to understand why Ishmael isn't just a historical figure, but a symbol of unwavering faith, boundless perseverance, and unexpected redemption amidst seemingly hopeless circumstances. We often imagine everyone is born into love and hope, warmly welcomed into life. But Ishmael's story begins in utter despair, in circumstances no one would wish for. Ishmael's birth wasn't a romantic tale or an eagerly awaited event. He was born to Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian maidservant, under unwanted circumstances. At that time, Sarah was old and unable to bear children. In an attempt to secure an heir, as was customary, Sarah suggested Abraham sleep with Hagar to have a child. This was a painful decision, an act of desperate arrangement born from a yearning for an heir and an impatience in waiting for God's promise. Ishmael was born from this situation, an unwanted existence, a testament to the failure of human attempts to hasten divine timing. To better understand this tragedy, we need to compare Ishmael to Isaac, the legitimate son of Sarah and Abraham, who was later born according to God's promise. Isaac was the son of promise, the eagerly awaited child, loved and granted every privilege. In contrast, Ishmael was the son of the bondwoman, born from human arrangement, a mistake in Sarah's eyes. This contrast wasn't merely about social status. It was a profound discrimination in love and acceptance. Abraham, as a father, undoubtedly loved both his sons, but Isaac's arrival pushed Ishmael into an unavoidable position of exclusion. In ancient society, the mother's status determined the child's, and Sarah's position as the primary wife granted Isaac all inheritance rights and public affection, casting Hagar and Ishmael into shadow. This offers a powerful lesson. Not everything that begins in despair or human error ends in failure. Ishmael's fate, despite its tragic beginning, testifies to God's power to transform unwanted circumstances into something great. Though rejected by circumstances and people, Ishmael still carried a seed of promise, a destiny ordained by the Most High, despite his painful beginning. The complex relationship between Hagar and Sarah lies at the heart of this family tragedy. When a woman is forced to choose between loyalty to her husband and her child's survival, where does that choice lead? The story of Hagar and Sarah is a stark portrayal of jealousy, pain, and impulsive decisions that impacted an entire family and shaped the destinies of nations. As soon as Sarah, through God's miracle, gave birth to Isaac in her old age, the jealousy in her heart flared intensely. Sarah couldn't bear to see Ishmael, Hagar's son, playing with Isaac. This wasn't just rivalry between two women, it was a conflict between the son of promise and the son of human effort. Sarah bluntly demanded of Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, with Isaac." Abraham was heartbroken, for Ishmael was also his son, but God instructed him to listen to Sarah, for in Isaac your offspring shall be named. Hagar, who had previously been mistreated by Sarah and fled once before Ishmael's birth, was now forced to leave Abraham's home again. This time she carried her young son, Ishmael. Abraham sent them off with some bread and a skin of water, meager provisions for an uncertain journey into the harsh desert. This isn't merely a story about jealousy. It's the ultimate anguish of an abandoned woman, a mother forced to take her child into the wilderness, unaware of what the future held. The decision, driven by Sarah's jealousy, created an irreparable rift in Abraham's family, affecting the destinies of millions who followed Ishmael. The lesson from this story is clear. Sometimes impulsive decisions, guided by negative emotions like jealousy, can lead to far-reaching and painful consequences, not only for those directly involved, but for generations to come. The departure of Hagar and Ishmael was not the end of a tragedy, but the beginning of a new chapter full of challenges and miracles, where their survival would be tested to its very limits. When all hope seems lost, when despair has reached its peak, is there still salvation? This is the haunting question Hagar and Ishmael faced as they confronted death in the desert. The incident when Hagar and Ishmael were cast out of Abraham's home, wandering in the wilderness of Beersheba, is one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the Bible. The water in their skin bottle was depleted, and the hot, barren desert showed no signs of life. Hagar knew her son couldn't survive without water. In utter despair, she couldn't bear to watch her son slowly die. She placed Ishmael under the shade of a small bush, a final desperate attempt to protect him from the scorching sun, and walked a distance away from him, unwilling to witness her flesh and blood's final moments. She sat down and wept bitterly, saying, "I cannot watch my child die." It was the cry of a helpless mother, of complete desperation, of surrendering to a cruel fate. This scene can be compared to other stories in the Bible about the testing of faith, such as Abraham taking Isaac to Mount Moriah to be sacrificed. Both stories speak of parents facing the prospect of losing a beloved child, but with different outcomes. For Abraham, it was a test of obedience and trust in God's promise. He knew God could do anything. But for Hagar, it was raw despair, without hope, without a clear promise to cling to. However, it is precisely in these darkest moments that a profound lesson about faith and perseverance is revealed. Steadfastness in faith doesn't come solely from easy salvation, but from accepting challenges, facing one's own weaknesses, and persevering when it seems there is nothing left to lose. Hagar, though not a prophetess or a major figure, underwent an extreme test of faith, and it was her and Ishmael's cry in the desert that reached a savior they never expected. This was the pivotal moment when divine intervention would transform despair into a miracle, opening a new chapter in the life of the rejected son. So, when all seemed lost, when the desperate cries of a mother and child echoed in the deadly silence of the desert, how could a single cry shatter everything? It was in that moment, teetering on the brink of death, that a miracle occurred. Powerful proof that salvation is always present, even when all hope seems to have faded. The angel of God called to Hagar from heaven, comforting her. "What troubles you, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there." Genesis 21:17. That single sentence changed everything. From a cry of despair, it became a cry heard by the Most High. The angel not only reassured Hagar, but also gave a divine promise. "Get up, lift the boy up, and hold him fast, for I will make him into a great nation." Immediately, God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well of water. She ran to it, filled her skin bottle, and gave Ishmael a drink, saving both mother and son from certain death. This miraculous moment is a practical example, a powerful reminder of times in our lives when we feel abandoned, forgotten, standing on the brink of complete collapse, only to realize that God is always listening and ready to help. It might be when you face an intractable financial crisis, an incurable illness, or a profound loneliness enveloping your soul. Like Hagar in the desert, we often only see scarcity, emptiness, and impending death. We cannot see the well right before our eyes until God opens our eyes, revealing a solution, a path we had never considered. The lesson from this event is deeply profound. We are never truly abandoned or forgotten by God. Even when our cries seem to echo into nothingness, God is listening. Sometimes we need to learn to trust in God's timing, in His way of acting, which may not be as we expect, but is always at the right time and in the right way to fulfill His promise. The story of Ishmael and Hagar is a living testament that even from the most tragic circumstances, from cries of despair, God can create the greatest miracles, turning death into life and despair into a promising future. From a boy with no inheritance, no land, an outcast in the desert, how could Ishmael lead an entire great nation? This is one of the strongest testaments to God's promise and His ability to transform the rejected into powerful leaders. After being saved in the desert, Ishmael and Hagar continued their journey. The Bible records that Ishmael grew up to become a skilled archer and lived in the wilderness of Paran. His mother Hagar found him a wife from Egypt, her homeland. This shows that Ishmael not only survived, but thrived. God's promise to Abraham that Ishmael would become a great nation was fulfilled through Ishmael's 12 sons, who later became the chiefs of 12 tribes. The names of Ishmael's sons are listed in Genesis 25:13-16, and they settled from Havilah to Shur, near Egypt, toward Assyria. This formed the foundation of the Arab tribes, a great and enduring legacy. When analyzing Ishmael's story, we can compare him to other leadership stories in the Bible, such as Moses, abandoned in a basket on the Nile River, or David, the shepherd boy overlooked by his family, or even Abraham, who had to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going. They all started from loss, abandonment, or a position of weakness, but ultimately became great leaders who changed history. Their commonality is that they were all chosen and empowered by God, regardless of their background or initial circumstances. Ishmael, rejected by his family, was protected and sustained by God. He didn't inherit a kingdom or a throne, but he built a nation based on resilience and the ability to adapt to the harsh desert environment. Ishmael's leadership didn't come from political power, but from survival, wisdom learned from the desert, and God's promise. The lesson from Ishmael's life is profound. Sometimes those who are rejected, forgotten, or underestimated in society are precisely the ones God uses to change the world. They are individuals with resilience, adaptability, and an unwavering faith in a Most High who has not abandoned them. Ishmael's story is a reminder that we should never underestimate anyone's potential based on their initial circumstances. It also emphasizes that greatness doesn't always come from well-paved paths, but often from harsh trials, personal struggles, and God's miraculous intervention, transforming a rejected person into an ancestor of a great nation. Ishmael's legacy is not just about survival, but about thriving, prospering, and leaving an indelible mark on the world. When the doors of the past never fully close, can we truly find peace? Although Ishmael and Isaac followed entirely different life paths, their destinies intersected once more in a significant event, bearing profound symbolic meaning of reconciliation and acceptance: their reunion at Abraham's burial. Genesis 25:9 records that after Abraham's death at 175 years old, his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. This was a deeply emotional and significant moment. Despite having been cast out of the household years before, despite their profound differences in status and fate, these two sons, carrying the legacy of the same father, stood together at his grave. This reunion between Ishmael and Isaac was more than just a simple act of burying their father. It was a powerful testament to forgiveness, acceptance, and the ability to move forward despite past wounds. Throughout their lives, there had been rivalry, exclusion, and pain. Ishmael had grown up in the desert, far from Isaac's wealth and security. Isaac had grown up with the assurance of God's promise and Sarah's affection. However, at this moment, those differences seemed to be set aside. They came together as brothers, fulfilling their final duty to their shared father. This doesn't necessarily imply a complete emotional reconciliation or a forgetting of everything that had transpired, but it was an act of mutual respect and an acceptance of each other's destinies. The lesson drawn from this encounter is profound and applicable to each of our lives. Although the past may linger and its scars may remain, we can absolutely learn to live peacefully and accept one another. The meeting of Ishmael and Isaac shows that even amidst disagreements, tragedies, or divergent paths, there are moments when people can rise above their differences to show basic respect and affection. It's a reminder of the importance of family, of roots, and of the capacity for healing, even if temporary, to face significant life events together. For Ishmael, it was a tacit acknowledgement of his place as a son of Abraham, completing a circle that began with his rejection. This isn't a definitive ending for the story of these two peoples, but it is a ray of hope for potential harmony and a testament to humanity's ability to find common ground even in the most difficult circumstances. Greatness doesn't come from thrones or worldly power, but from resilient hearts and an indomitable spirit. This is powerfully demonstrated through the magnificent legacy of Ishmael and his descendants, who forged strong tribes in the heart of the desert, a legacy that still resonates today. After his encounter with Isaac, Ishmael continued his life in the wilderness, where he had grown up and honed his survival skills. The Bible records that he lived 137 years and had 12 sons, each of whom became the chief of a tribe, fulfilling God's promise to Abraham, "I will make him into a great nation." Genesis 17:20. These sons were Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedema. These tribes became known as the Ishmaelites and were the resilient inhabitants of the Arabian Peninsula and the Levant. Ishmael's legacy through his sons was not just about numerical growth, but also about strength and influence. These tribes became powerful nomads, controlling vital trade routes across the desert, connecting the great ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Levant, and southern lands. They were renowned for their ability to survive in harsh environments, their skill in raising camels and horses, and their profound knowledge of desert routes. Analyzing the connection between Ishmael's legacy and later Arab civilizations, we see that the Ishmaelite tribes are considered ancestors of many Arab groups. Their influence on the development of commerce and culture is undeniable. They served as crucial intermediaries in the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between these regions. Trading cities like Petra and Palmyra later thrived based on these tribes' understanding and control of desert routes. Furthermore, living in such a demanding environment fostered a culture rich in hospitality, courage, and a spirit of freedom. The lesson from Ishmael's legacy is profound. A legacy doesn't always have to be based on political power, inherited wealth, or recognition from mighty empires. Instead, it can be built on perseverance, an indomitable spirit in the face of adversity, and the ability to thrive in seemingly impossible circumstances. Ishmael, the rejected son, created an enduring legacy, a resilient people, proving that greatness can emerge from anywhere as long as there is will and God's blessing. His story is a powerful testament that those who are forgotten can also make the most significant and lasting impacts on human history. Ishmael's legacy is not just about survival, but about flourishing, prospering, and leaving an indelible mark on the world. Are you misunderstanding Ishmael, or perhaps overlooking the valuable lessons from his story? In the flow of biblical narratives and religious history, Ishmael is often mistakenly portrayed as a minor character, a rejected son with little significant influence. This misconception largely stems from the focus in Jewish and Christian scriptures on Isaac's lineage as the chosen line, casting Ishmael's story into shadow. He is often assigned the image of rebellion, wildness, and opposition to the sacredness of Isaac. However, how Ishmael is perceived in different religions, particularly in Islam, is completely different. In Islam, Ishmael, is revered as a prophet and the ancestor of the Arabs, especially the ancestor of the Prophet Muhammad. He is considered a crucial figure in the building of the Kaaba in Mecca, alongside Abraham, and someone who carries a sacred lineage. This difference in perception clearly shows that a religious or cultural viewpoint can entirely shape how we understand a historical figure. The common misconceptions about Ishmael in some Christian traditions have caused many to miss out on the valuable lessons from his life. People often overlook God's direct intervention in saving him and the promise that he would become a great nation. They focus only on the initial rejection without seeing his later growth and influence. This leads to an important lesson. Sometimes, what we perceive as weak, rejected, or insignificant is precisely where a person's greatest strength and potential lie. Ishmael was not a failure. He is a living testament that God's promises can work in unexpected ways, even in seemingly hopeless circumstances. His story challenges us to re-examine our prejudices and assumptions, especially when we judge others based on their background, initial circumstances, or the scars from their past. It teaches us that an individual's true value lies not in societal acceptance or recognition from those in power, but in the resilience of their spirit, their ability to survive and thrive despite adversity, and their strong connection with the Creator. By rightly understanding Ishmael, we not only expand our knowledge of religious history, but also broaden our perspective on human potential and the ways God can act in this world, beyond all expectations and frameworks. Ishmael's story is not just about mere survival, but about a spirit that never gives up, an unwavering faith even in the darkest moments. From Ishmael's life, we can learn some of the most important lessons about perseverance, trust in God, and resilience in all difficulties. Perseverance. Ishmael and Hagar faced certain death in the desert, yet they fought continuously for survival. Hagar's perseverance in seeking water and Ishmael's miraculous survival are testaments to never giving up in the face of circumstances. In our daily lives, when we face career setbacks, broken relationships, or intractable health issues, Ishmael's story reminds us that giving up is not an option. Trust in God. Although Ishmael was not the son of promise in the same way Isaac was, God still heard the boy's cry and fulfilled his promise to Abraham through Ishmael. This teaches us that God cares for all his children, and his promises are trustworthy. When we feel abandoned, forgotten, or doubt if anyone cares about us, Ishmael's story affirms that our cries are always heard by a loving Most High. We need to have faith that he will intervene at the right time. Resilience in adversity. Ishmael's life was a series of challenges, from rejection to self-reliance in the desert. But he not only survived but thrived, becoming the ancestor of a great nation. This shows that difficulties are not stopping points, but launching pads for growth. Every challenge is an opportunity to strengthen our will, develop survival skills, and discover the hidden power within ourselves. Applying these values to our daily lives is crucial, especially when facing the greatest difficulties. When you confront a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, remember Ishmael in the barren desert. Seek your well of water. It could be a creative solution, help from others, or an inner source of spiritual strength. Believe that even in the darkest moments, there is a glimmer of hope, a promise of deliverance waiting. The ultimate and deepest lesson from Ishmael is this: in the hardest times, we need to remember that our biggest challenges are our biggest opportunities for growth, to discover strengths we never knew we possessed, and to witness God's miraculous intervention in our lives. Ishmael's story is not just a page in ancient history, it is an enduring anthem to the power of the human spirit and the boundless mercy of God. Ultimately, Ishmael is not just a biblical story, he is an inspiration for all who have ever felt rejected, forgotten, or underestimated by the world. His story is powerful proof that God has a great plan for everyone, regardless of their background, circumstances, or past mistakes. Ishmael, the rejected son, became the ancestor of a great nation, a symbol of resilience and unwavering faith. Together, we've explored Ishmael's desperate birth, the complex relationship between Hagar and Sarah, his confrontation with death in the desert, and the miraculous moment when God heard his cry. We've also learned about Ishmael's rise to leadership, his meaningful reunion with Isaac, and the mighty legacy he left behind. More importantly, we've debunked common misconceptions about Ishmael, to understand that he is a pivotal character, offering invaluable lessons of perseverance and faith. Reflect on how Ishmael's story can apply to your own life. Are there moments when you feel abandoned, unheard, or facing seemingly insurmountable challenges? Remember that, like Ishmael, your cries are heard by God, and He always has a plan for your life, even when you can't see it. If you feel Ishmael's story has changed your perspective on life, if it has brought you hope and resilience, then please share this video. Spread this message to others who are also seeking empathy and strength. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our next inspiring stories and profound discoveries. Please leave your comments below the video. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Ishmael and the lessons from his life. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.